what's happening here.
If you end up going 5, 6, 7 points behind this Liverpool side.
Right now, regardless of who steps on the field for City, they don't look as though they know what they're all about.
I think it alludes to a weakness in the Premier League title race as well for Man City.
When they lose control, when they lose the pace of the game, and the game gets stretched, they cannot keep up.
It's rare to see the words Manchester City in crisis used in the same sentence. However, after suffering 3 consecutive defeats, which rarely ever happens under Pep Guardiola, pundits, fans, players, they're all thinking what is going on over at the Etihad. So in this video, we're going to break down why Manchester City, who we typically see as an unstoppable force, looks so bad right now. And we want to know, are they truly showing the cracks of a team that have won 4 Premier Leagues in a row? The first thing to start off with, let's face it, they are facing an injury crisis right now. And not just any normal injury crisis, they're facing injuries to 2 of their 3 most key players in Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne. Mr. Ballon d'Or is currently sidelined with an ACL injury and he's probably not going to come back to the pitch until next season. Kevin De Bruyne, he's on the way back, but he's still not a consistent starter for Manchester City due to his injury problems. And then when you add that to the likes of Oscar Bob, who has an ACL injury, Ruben Diaz, Jeremy Doku, Jack Grealish, the list keeps compiling. Even Pep Guardiola mentioned in a recent interview that they are in a real difficulty because they never had a situation in the last 9 years where so many injuries have happened in such a short space of time. And it's put such immense pressure on Manchester City's depth because whilst it is rich in quality, the squad doesn't really go that deep. And the stark indicator of these absences was showcased in the last 3 losses to Spurs, to Bournemouth, to Sporting Club de Portugal. We're seeing it week in and week out recently. Even against Sporting, Manchester City took the lead from Phil Foden, but they capitulated and they ended up losing 4-1, which is their worst ever European defeat since 2016. So why do Man City look so bad? Why are teams just finding acres of space against them? It's all thanks to how well they use the ball. Because the absence of Rodri, we saw it last season and we're seeing it again, it's exposing a significant vulnerability in that Manchester City midfield. Typically Rodri acts as their anchor, he's the one in charge of circulating possession, finding incisive passes, and even at times finding himself in the box to score goals. But without him, Guardiola has leaned on the likes of Ilkay Gundogan, Mateo Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, who whilst they have their own qualities, they lack the defensive tenacity and, to be fair, Rodri's ability to just circulate possession and to be a metronome in the team. Teams like Sporting, Bournemouth, Fulham, they've all found their ways to exploit this weakness and they find joy in quick counter-attacks and they're capitalizing on City's inability to recover possession. Against Bournemouth, City conceded 6 big chances, the most they've allowed in a league fixture since their defeat to Brentford 2 years ago. They're not keeping the ball well enough and when they lose the ball, it's like Moses parting the Red Sea right now. And then from an attacking point of view, City's opponents have just hit them with the low block of the century. And without the circulation of Rodri moving the block from side to side, or Kevin De Bruyne's incisive passing, City are losing an element in attack and it's led to games where they're just unable to break the door down. And going back to this week's defeat against Sporting, it's emblematic of their current problems. Victor Gyökeres had so many opportunities when he's through on goal and they ended up conceding 4 goals, including 2 penalties. Guardiola's tactical approach, often focusing on maintaining possession and high pressing, fell apart as City struggled emotionally and defensively. Guardiola admitted after the match that emotionally they were not stable enough, and in this competition you have to be stable. And that's the theme that's running through this entire video, it's stability. Without Rodri, without De Bruyne, without Manchester City's key anchors, they're vulnerable to counter-attacks and fast-paced transitions. They do not have stability right now. And even from the other side, due to the lack of chance creation, Erling Haaland hasn't been at his best. Haaland, who shattered goal records last season, has failed to score in 6 of his last 10 matches. Savinho, Doku, Grealish, they all can create chances for Haaland, but their lack of finishing, their lack of final end product has really hurt Manchester City's goal tally. With all of these issues exacerbated, defensively City it's not looking good for them right now. Because a trademark of Guardiola's City has been their rock solid defense. However, this season they've conceded 11 goals from their first 10 Premier League matches, already matching the total they allowed in the first half of last season. I mean, according to Opta, City's current defensive record of conceded 1.1 goals per game is their worst start to Guardiola's season at Manchester City since his first season at the club. And now we ask ourselves, is this really a sustainable method for Manchester City this season? Because when you look over to their rivals Liverpool have really really started the season amazingly, barely conceding so many chances, they're scoring a ton of goals, their attack seems to be in cohesion. City don't really have that right now. So is it a case of Manchester City need to go into the January transfer market and find that Rodri replacement, to find the circulator, to find the player who can just shift the blocks from side to side? And with all of these injuries right now, Guardiola has to look inside of his team. Can Gundogan step up? Can Kovacic step up? Can all of the other players that are currently fit right now step up and carry the load? It's something that we always see under Manchester City. There are always parts of a season where another player would step up and turn up in those moments. We've seen it in the past. It's been Gundo, it's been De Bruyne, it's been Grealish, it's been Haaland, it's been Bernardo Silva. I can name so many players who've had a really good run of form to take Manchester City and to stabilize them. But with an aging squad, potentially a lack of motivation, will they find that extra element within the team? Which makes me think, is there a way out for City this season? Because in the past, history suggests that Manchester City, they can just turn up at any different moment of the season. I mean, just 2 years ago, Ilkay Gundogan said that he felt something was off in the team, but City recovered to secure a treble. So Guardiola, he may lean on this resilience, this experience, to guide them through the current challenges. And in the coming weeks, when they face Liverpool and Spurs again, they really need to solve these problems. They're going to be huge tests, especially Liverpool. Liverpool have been so good this season, and Manchester City, even Arsenal, they've not started the season well. So if Liverpool are able to continue on their run of momentum, they can really create a sizable gap ahead of their rivals. So if City can address these defensive vulnerabilities, if they're able to consistently break down these low blocks, which is hard because the Premier League is a very, very tough league, they can just turn this all around. But if not, this mini crisis can turn into something a lot bigger. But one thing is certain, you cannot bet against Manchester City, and if they're able to keep the ball just a bit better, if they're able to protect themselves from transitions just a bit better, we're talking about a team that can win 5 Premier Leagues on the bounce. They're breaking their own records season in and season out. But the question is, do they have it in them to do it?